After two wreck-filled races in Daytona being won by Jonathan Cadell and Thomas George via last lap passes, we head 4 hours south to the land of the pink suits and white supercars, Homestead, Miami Speedway. Hi folks, Austin Belke joined by J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kivy in the booth. As always, we've got Ryan Seneker behind the cameras doing all that production-y level stuff. Welcome to the Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash from Homestead. JR, with progressive banking, we're going to see a lot of multi-groove racing all night long today, but what else can you tell us about Homestead?
Well, Austin, Homestead Miami Speedway is a 1.5 mile oval that features progressive banking, just like you talked about in the turns here, starting at 18 degrees on the bottom all the way up to 20 degrees on the high side. And the reason that I bring that variable banking up is because it will give these drivers options throughout the race to move around and search for grip based on how their car is handling at that moment. Also, this place is very abrasive, the track surfaces. It will chew your tires up quickly, and with it, your lap times will get extremely slow. These drivers will have to be thinking about that from the very start of the run. You have to take care of those tires if you want to be fast at the end and have a shot to race for the lead. And Austin, this is why so many drivers love coming to this place. This is a driver's track, and the driver can make a big difference here in how the car performs. Now we just have to see which drivers make that difference here tonight.
Thanks, JR. Excellent point you bring up. Do you go slow, just ride the bottom and maybe save your tires, or do you go all the way up to the top of the track, ride the wall, rip the lip, as they say, just to try to get yourself some extra track position earlier in the run? But Kenny, I'll pass it on to you. You've got some keys for us.
Yeah, well, you guys already touched on part of what I'm going to lead into here, and key number one is to search for grip around the racetrack. Very abrasive surface, and with that progressive banking, leaves for a lot of options when it comes to what line you want to drive, and it can come down to what is open as far as the traffic, what is allowed, what will get you clean air on the nose, things like that. What feels good in the race car. You can run all the way from the white line all the way up to the blue wall on the outside if you need to. And the second key tonight is, again, save tires. With the abrasive race surface, tires will start to make a difference. I'd say probably about 5 laps into a run. I mean, drivers are going to want tires as often as they can get them, but with only 2 tire sets left in the pits, they're going to be kind of at a premium here. So you're going to have to make those tires last. And that'll lead to some comers and goers throughout the event. Should make for some exciting racing out there, and lead to a lot of kind of internal strategy, not just with the pit strategy, but these drivers will have to choose when and how hard to push the issue in the twin races tonight.
Thanks, Kenny. One other quick thank you I'd like to put out there is to tonight's race sponsor for both these two feature races. Tonight, that's Mars Properties. They offer out-of-this-world pricing on fully furnished vacation rental homes close to the ocean in New Bern, North Carolina. For more information, you can email Mars Properties, that's Mars with 2 S's, at gmail.com. Just the same way it looks, that logo on your screen, folks. Go ahead and shoot them an email just to get more information on the whole deal. Really set yourself up with an awesome vacation. We transition back to the racetrack, and we've got qualifying going on. And JR, you made the mention of it. There's 3 really close times up at the top of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely close. Only 4 1,000ths of a second separating the top 3 there. And the interesting thing, I kind of watched these different drivers during qualifying. Those top 3 drivers really kind of ran the bottom to middle of the track during their runs, where some of the other guys immediately went to the top. And that bottom early on is just a little bit faster if you drive it correctly.
Couple drivers still have yet to put down a qualifying time. Again, 4 laps, but you do need to make them all extremely clean. Again, a 0x, a 1x, spinning out even. You need to put down 4 clean laps, and then we take the average of those laps, so it's even more exceptional to see all 4 of those times there up at the top of the scoreboard be as close as they are. Only about 20 seconds left here in qualifying. Jeff Pete puts down a time. So far, Cody Eldred, Jonathan Cadell, Sawyer Nelson, Ryan Keys, Rooster Rodden, and Adam Jersky. Drivers left without a qualifying time. We'll see if any of them can get down a buzzer beater. Doesn't look like it. The 5-minute time clock will expire on qualifying, so we have our 19-car grid all set for the first of our 2 feature 55-lap races. Excuse me. Leading the field to green behind that iRacing pace car as they sit on pit road for the moment. Matt Taylor in the 91 car. He's going to have Mr. Consistency, Mike Rasmus, lining up to his outside. Completing row number 2, you'll have Jeff Ward on the inside and Scott Eckridge on the outside. Colton Salick and Gavin Flint round out row number 3 in 5th and 6th place, respectively. Mark Cohn, the watchman, winds up in the 7th position. He'll have Brian Yazik in the 55 car to his outside. Ricky Harden in the Fingermobile qualifying the 9th position. Woody Mahan rounds out your top 10 qualifiers. Thomas George is going to line up in 11th position. He's one of our 2 winners from last week in Daytona. He'll have Michael Krobach in the 72 car to his outside in 12th. Jeff Pete, newcomer to the league in the 54 machine. That's that green and red car. Have a feeling we're going to see that a lot tonight. He lines up in 13th position. He has Jonathan Cadell to his outside. Cadell, another one of our 2 Daytona winners from last week. Cadell, the first of the drivers without a qualifying time. Adam Jersky in the 71 car lines up in the 15th position. He had a lot of strong runs in Daytona. Look for him to be strong once again. Ryan Keys lines up in the 16th place position. He'll have Cody Eldridge starting to his outside, behind him in 17th. Rooster Rod in the 01 car rolls off to his outside, and Sawyer Nelson rounds out the 19 car field. So, JR, opinion-based question for you. If you're one of these drivers out here in these Gen 4 Cup cars, do you go all the way down to the bottom of the track, right around that apron, or are you going to be riding the wall?
You can do either one, but you've got to, more importantly, just be really, really easy on corner entry, but also as you start to accelerate and apply that throttle. Myself, I like going to the bottom of the track because it forces you to be easier on corner entry and also makes you wait to get back on that throttle because you've got a tighter radius that you're running around and a little bit less banking. So that's my preference, but I think you're going to see these guys do multiple things throughout this first run at least, and then they're going to learn from that.
Kenny, a question for you as well. What do you see if you're one of these drivers out here? What's your game plan tonight for strategy? Are you going to run long hoping for a caution, or are you going to try to be one of the first drivers to come down pit road and maybe go for an undercut?
Well, I think it's a little bit situation based. If you're caught in traffic when the pit window kind of opens up, then maybe you undercut to try to get around that driver through the pit stop. But if you get up into the lead and can control your own destiny up towards the front, then you're going to try to wait as long as you can, wait for some of the other competitive drivers to make their stop before you go ahead and make your own.
iRacing pace car leading the field through turns 3 and 4. So far, we have 3 different drivers up atop the standings in terms of the win column. Jeff Ward, Scott Eckridge, and Colton Salick, all with 6 wins apiece. Let's see if any of those drivers can get up to lucky number 7 tonight. Green flag is out. We're underway here for the Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash at Homestead Miami Speedway. Matt Taylor taking a commanding lead here off the get-go. He's going to go down to the bottom of the racetrack. Mike Rasmus is going to follow him. Behind those 2 drivers, Scott Eckridge is going to jump in front of Jeff Ward. So far, the bulk of our field, single file already. It's not until we get down to Mark Cohn, the watchman. He's got Woody Mahan to his outside. Look at Thomas George all the way up to the very top of the racetrack.
Yeah, you can see most of these drivers, they've already migrated down to the bottom in that single file line, trying to conserve their tires, but that is an opportunity for you if you want to go hard at the beginning to try to make up some positions. It looks like Thomas George is deciding to do that. You just, again, have to be careful with how you apply that throttle so you don't wear out that right rear tire.
A little bit of clean air up there as well. Put some extra air on the nose of that race car. Maybe just try to snug it up just a little bit to get that car to rotate through the corner.
Some of these drivers, you might see them actually make a wide arc into the corner. They might run low, but they might arc it down towards the bottom, start high and then go low. And you gotta be careful with doing that. You might wear out the right rear tire by trying to kind of yaw the car out, kind of force the car in a downward motion in the middle of the corner. Sometimes the best way to run the bottom is actually to have a more shallow entry forces you to kind of slow down a little bit extra and just smoothly run around that white line all the way around the corner.
Riding on board here now with Jeff Ward. We're kind of in that mother-in-law position, just over his shoulder, kind of watching over what he's doing, ready to critique at a moment's notice. Jeff Ward comes in here second in the points, like I said, tied amongst 3 other drivers for the most wins on the season. The only person with more top 10s than Jeff Ward is points leader Michael Krobach with 24 top 10s on the season to Jeff's 21. Taking a look back further into the field here, you see Thomas George, one of our 2 winners from last week, still trying to champion that high line. So far he's gotten around Mark Cohn, the watchman as well. Just trying to see if he can get another position here from Brian Yazik. Brian going a little bit further up the track, trying to see if he can play a little bit of a defensive line.
Yeah, for sure, but Thomas is really working the high side. And the one thing that I like that he's doing is that he's not flying through the field, because he should be carrying a ton more speed, especially up off the corners and down the straightaways, but we don't see that. So it appears that he's taking care of his stuff while he is still running that high side and making passes.
Taking another spot there away from Brian Yazik. That relegates Yazik down to the 8th position, moves that number 6 car up to the 7th spot. We'll have to keep an eye on his progress to see if he continues to make any forward progress up through the field. Kenny, I have to wonder, at what point do his tires maybe just give up the ghost, or does he just decide, you know what, I don't want to push it as hard anymore. I'm comfortable with where I am at this point in the race.
Yeah, I think at some point you have to focus more on just racing the racetrack, and whatever position you're in is where you're going to be. And, you know, naturally, instead of you catching other drivers, the drivers will kind of come back to you. That's kind of the approach that I like to take, especially if I'm kind of stuck in the middle of the field in these races. And things have kind of spread out here, so that strategy might work out pretty nicely here. Ooh, did have one car. Jeff Pete kind of grazed the wall off of turn 2, though, but was able to keep going.
2 side-by-side battles on your screen. The first one, the furthest up the field, as Gavin Flint battling with Thomas George. The one we're looking at here, that's Woody Mahan up on the outside. Mark Cohn, the watchman, was down there on the inside. That's that 8 machine. Now jumps back down to the bottom.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out that we've noticed on here, but some of the viewers may not, is that you will see these drivers, as we rode on board with Jeff Ward earlier, you could see it, they are either straddling those seams on the track or they are going under or above them. You won't see these drivers run with their right sides or left sides right on that seam very much, because it completely changes how the car handles, and a lot of times it's unpredictable, so it's something you want to avoid, and it will wear your tires out more by doing it.
Another side-by-side battle you could see on your screen was Michael Krobach in the 72 car passing Ricky Harden in the Fingermobile. That moves the 72 car up to 11th. He started back in 12th, so not making a whole lot of progress, but Ricky Harden has already lost 3 spots so far. So either the car not quite handling to his liking, or perhaps, Kenny, he's just hanging on to those tires a little bit more conservatively than his fellow peers.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell. You could just see somebody that's actually struggling, or they could just be trying to avoid conflict and just, you know, again, running the racetrack, just picking a line and sticking to it. I think if you see somebody moving around, changing lanes and falling through the field, that's somebody who's kind of just struggling. Whereas if you see somebody who is just sticking to the exact same line over and over again with really consistent lap times, even if they're dropping through the field, that's more so the look of a driver who is just trying to save their stuff.
Michael Krobach picking up another spot just past the watchman. Mark Cohen in the 8 car moves to 72 now up to that 10th place. And guys, I'm seeing a lot more cars kind of up there towards the wall. It started out as just the 6 machine of Thomas George. You've got Brian Yazik and Woody Mahan up there now. So a lot more cars. I don't know if they're venturing out there to see what it's like, but that's definitely what we'll see as the runs go on.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is about the time that you'll start to see it throughout these races. We're getting close to halfway through a fuel run, and that's where guys will start to really search around for a lot of grip, and that's also where you'll start to see the drivers who have taken care of their stuff start to move forward. Michael Krobach's one of those drivers. We also see Jeffrey Harden now moving forward as well.
Yeah, Jeffrey Harden is pretty much just figured he's done saving his tires. He'd like to go, maybe not hard in the wall per se, but up through the field for sure. Jonathan Cadell, another one of those drivers, done saving his tires. He'd like to try and take some spots away from his fellow competitors. You look at Michael Krobach trying to take a spot away from Woody Mahan up towards the wall. We'll see if he can get it done this time into turns 1 and 2. Dives that car on down to the bottom. Not quite, just using that seam to his advantage, Kenny.
Yeah, and that seam down there can really be used for a little bit of lateral grip. You know, these cars I think are going to build tight on corner entry to middle, then they'll get loose off once you start to try to play with that throttle on corner exits. So that seems a nice kind of a tool to be used to help the car rotate on that entry to middle, and Krobach uses it there to perfection to help him make a pass.
Just a couple cars up the road from those two drivers. This is another battle shaping up. You've got Gavin Flint in the 48 car down on the bottom. Brian Yazik looking to try to take away that spot. He keeps getting a lot of momentum here, using that run on the high side. We'll see if he can get it done on the low side. Does he perhaps pull a slide job? Gavin, though, he does a great job to hold the car up there on the outside, but I think Yazik's going to get him.
Yeah, it's apparent to me that Brian is really taking care of his stuff because he made that move down on the bottom. Now, obviously, he's wanting to go back up top. He feels like that's where he can get the biggest runs and the biggest lap time at the moment. But he was able to make that pass on the bottom pretty comfortably there. So he's definitely got good stuff.
Yeah, it tells me he's been saving his tires exactly for the moments like that. He's not going to drive his car hard every lap, but as soon as the opportunity to get a position presents itself, he's going to give all 10 tenths. Use up just a little bit of that tire to go past that guy to see if he can't get another spot.
Yeah, and right now you're seeing why so many drivers love this place. Again, we talked about the drivers searching around looking for grip. Every time they go into the corner, you're going to see somebody run a different line. Some at the bottom, some all the way up at the top, and then some just kind of running through the middle there. But more importantly, like Austin touched on earlier, is that you're looking for clean air so you have grip on that nose. Without that clean air, as these tires are gone and wore out, you're just going to slide across the track. The nose will not grip, so you got to search for that clean air as well.
Battle here up further in the field. This is two cars going at it for the third position. Jeff Ward, who started in third, and Scott Eckert, who passed him around the outside to take over that third position. These two cars continue to get closer and closer together. Ryan Mack further in the pack. There was a lot of jockeying for position going on around the 9th, 10th, 11th place. Cars sliding every which way, and this is only further compounded by the fact that Thomas George and Michael Krobach have now run down Brian Yazik, so you've got this inversion of the cars going up and down the field at the exact same time, and this is the exact kind of excitement that will come from that.
And it looks like some of the drivers up in this group do not really want to give up the positions that they are holding, and if any driver up here is just trying to kind of run the racetrack, it's a little bit frustrating because you get stuck in this traffic, you catch these drivers, and you kind of just want to run a certain lane, but sometimes it gets clogged or blocked by these other drivers kind of running their own race, and it might end up kind of accelerating the tire wear on all of these cars kind of unintentionally, and at the same time when they're side by side, they're going to lose time to the leaders at the same time. But the good news is for all of us here up in the booth and the viewers at home, we get to watch this exciting multi-lane racing as they try to figure it out.
And all this battling here in this front pack is only going to lead that second pack closer and closer to them. They've been getting increasingly closer these last couple laps. While all these guys up here are jockeying for position, running around just basically at each other's throats, the pack behind them has been slowly but surely kind of creeping up into this picture. Before long, I think we're going to have a big old gaggle of cars here, JR.
Yeah, it seems like it is drawing everyone close together as we're getting to this point, and that's not a great thing because right now this race is looking like a green flag race, and we're only about 6 to 8 laps away from pit stop. So you start getting these big packs. This is a pit road. Kenny can touch on this. This is a pit road that is pretty difficult to get to, especially when you have a large pack around you.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of Well, we've seen drivers in real life have a lot of struggles here. There is a pit road kind of access road that doesn't have to be used on pit road entry, but it gets really flat on pit road entry. As I think we lost. Yeah, Scott Eckridge actually gone. He is disconnected. So he goes from third to, he'll go down to all the way down to 18th.
Meanwhile, we've still got this fantastic battle for position on your screen. Brian Yazik continues to hemorrhage spots. Back up in the wall once again. He got loose off turn 2 that last time. This time, he gets in the outside wall, gives it another kiss on corner exit just for good measure. Now you got Woody Mahan and Thomas George battling side by side right behind that Yazik machine.
Yeah, and the struggles that we saw Brian have through the corner there, that is something that is very common here, especially as the tires wear and you're trying to gain the speed by running that high line. It's very, very easy to overstep the grip level and then get into the wall. And the bad thing is once you're in the wall, it's not sucking you in really hard, but it's not allowing you to get up off the wall. So you're continuing to lose speed throughout the corner, and you're going to get past when it happens. So, yeah, he was very fortunate that he didn't lose more than what he did there.
And how about this, guys? All the guys that we thought maybe had used up their tires, like Mark Cohn, Woody Mahan. Not so much Adam Jersky. He's been just kind of hanging out in the wings all race. These guys finally starting to come into their own here just before we're out of the fuel run. These guys really start to pounce on their competitors like Brian Yazik and Thomas George, maybe two drivers who've pretty much just used up all the good of those 4 Goodyear tires.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Adam Jersky, he started in the back like you talked about, did not have a qualifying time in here. And I think probably because of that, he decided, hey, I'm really going to save my tires here. And it is showing off huge here at the end of this run because he's right here with this pack looking to make passes before these pit stops occur.
Yazik up onto the wall once again. Really, that car just not quite to his liking. You see Mark Cohn make a couple good passes there. Should only be a matter of time before we see Woody Mahan and Adam Jersky do almost the exact same thing. Kenny, we've got to be pretty darn close to finishing a fuel run.
Yeah, at the moment, it looks like the fuel window is about 26 to 29 laps. Remember, it's a 60-lap race. I'm really curious to see if maybe some outlier could stretch it to halfway and make this a one-stop race. If you can't stretch it, though, you'd almost think you'd want to pit around, closer to lap 20 and then lap 40 to kind of split up the race into 3 equal parts. Obviously, we're past that. We're on to lap 26. So I'm really curious here the next couple laps to see if any driver is able to actually stretch it to halfway and make it a one-stopper.
Now, Kenny, not to be a jerk, does your strategy change if we have 5 less laps?
Yes it does. My bad.
Technically, we're already halfway, right? So I feel like this is a great opportunity. If you're somebody like Eckridge or George, you burned off your tires, come get 4 fresh ones.
Yeah, the reason why I'm seeing that is on my screen here on the overlay for iRacing. It says 60 to the feature, which is just the field size.
I made the same mistake before.
Yes. Yeah, and it's right next to the lap counter, so it's killing me right here. But yes, so it's, obviously.
Oh, look at Ricky Hart. He's committing.
We got a few Thomas George also
George,
committing.
yep.
Yeah, and real important there, we talked about how hard it is to get on pit road. Ricky Harden just did a fantastic job making a pass while coming on the pit road. So that shows the difference that can be made in lap times just coming in for your pit stop. Interestingly
enough, Ricky Harden also used that little pit entry road that goes through turns 3 and 4 in the infield and got around Thomas George, who just decided to brake like all these guys are. You see our top 3 podium drivers coming in: Matt Taylor, Jeff Ward, Colton Salick.
And I think not enough has been said yet of the job that Taylor has done. He has been...
Adam Jersky.
Yeah, Adam overstepped it just a little bit coming to pit road. Looked like he had a little bit too much speed and probably a little too much rear brake. And he was sideways coming off the banking. As soon as you touch that brake, it just came on around, and not much he could do there.
Locking up the wheels, a little bit of wheel hopping there, something we're going to see a lot more of next week as we go to Lime Rock Park. Yeah, going to be doing some road racing. And Kenny, probably out of all the drivers I know in a stock car at Lime Rock, you have got to be one of the best.
Yeah, Lime Rock's one of my favorite tracks. I mean, I haven't driven a truck there, but Lime Rock is just an exciting place. It's really difficult to pass. It's not a very wide track. And as far as road courses go, it kind of feels like a short track because it is short, but there's going to be some physicality there. Should be exciting. But I wanted to get back to my previous point. I wanted to give an attaboy to Matt Taylor, who, I mean, we've seen him up front occasionally and have some good runs, but I mean, you got to remember, he qualified on speed, first place, and ran pretty much in the lead that entire run, and is now kind of controlling this race, and hopefully for him, he can cycle around as to be the leader after the pit stops are all done. Just a great job from that 91 car.
Yeah, just retook the lead, by the way, from Mr. Consistency Mike Rasmus. And Matt Taylor, by the way, doesn't have any wins this season. We've seen him be extremely competitive. He was one of those drivers I talked about. Has speed, hasn't had a race win so far, trying to punch his ticket into the chase. And just behind him, Mike Rasmus, he's somebody that kind of leapfrogged his way into this battle by virtue of the pit stop. So doing a real bang-up job himself.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, you guys touched on Matt Taylor and how great of a race he has done up to this point. He just has to make sure that he doesn't do anything different than what he did in that first run, because in that first run, he was slowly pulling away from the other drivers in that lead pack. So he knows how to take care of his stuff throughout that run. This run should be just a few laps shorter. He just needs to repeat what he did last time.
And by the way, you guys can talk to this as well, but it's one thing to qualify on the pole, right? You're fast for a lap. It's another thing to lead from lap 1 all the way to lap 30-something. It's a completely different thing to go down there, make a green flag pit stop, brake from full speed to pit road speed, go down pit road at a good speed, and then go in your box, perfect, get out of your box, accelerate up to speed, and then hold the lead that whole time. One thing just compounds the difficulty of everything else to do what Matt Taylor has continued to do today.
Yeah, it's exactly right. You don't just have one thing that allows you to try to win these races. Being fast will not get you the win on a regular basis. You have to have everything during the race. You have to have the speed to have a decent qualifying run. You have to have good pace throughout the entire run before your pit stop. And then you have to also know how to navigate coming onto and off a pit road, because there is so much time that can be lost there. And any mistakes in any of that, it can cost you a lot of spots at the end of the day.
Imagine it like baking a pizza, if you will, to turn this into a food analogy. You can have a good dough, you can bake it well, but if you've got some nasty sauce or some bad cheese, maybe you've put a bunch of anchovies on there. Not that many people like anchovies. You haven't made a good pizza. It's a conglomerate of all the things on there that make a good pie, just the same as it is to winning a race. Matt Taylor, half a second lead over Mike Rasmus, then Jeff Ward to round out the podium. He's racing side by side now, the 9 car and the 99 of Colton Salick going at it. Then they have a whopping 5-second gap back to Michael Krobach, who rounds out the top 5. It's an additional second back to Jonathan Goodell, and then another 1.5 seconds back to Ricky Hart. So this field continues to get further and further spread apart. The closest drivers on the track are in the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a 4-car race at this point, because 5 seconds is a lot to make up, especially during a long run. If it's a short run, you may see drivers do some unique things and really wear out their stuff, but being as long as a run as this, I don't see Krobach really catching these drivers by the end of the race. So these 4 drivers up here, if they play it smart and don't lose any time racing one another, they are going to be the ones fighting for the win here. And right now, Colton Salick, he's the one that's moving forward out of that bunch. He's been able to make some passes. He's passed Jeff Ward, and he looks like he does still have good pace.
Yeah, Colton Salick, another one of those drivers too. He comes in here with a lot of speed. You'll see him qualifying well, not always on the pole like we see a Scott Eckridge or a Jeff Ward do, but he gets better as the races and the night goes on. He might not come out of the gate as the fastest car, but usually you'll see him maybe not finish so good in the first race, so he'll start up in front of the field in the second one, and he'll just start to dominate. So to see him doing this well in the first race, that might be a bad sign for his competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that this first race, it's all about learning, right? So you can apply it to that second race. And if a driver is extremely good in the first race, they're only going to get better. So it's definitely going to have drivers concerned when you see someone who's already fast be so good in race number one. Race number two is going to be a lot harder.
Guys, I love what I'm seeing out of Taylor here, because he is running the exact same line every single corner, and he's about a car width, half a car width up from the bottom. He's a little bit lower in turns 1 and 2, but he is doing the exact same thing every single lap, trusting in his game plan and what he's doing. He's not really trying to experiment, trying to gain more time. He's pretty much just putting it out there like, here's what I'm going to run, try to see if you can come catch me. And everybody else is kind of experimenting occasionally, not exactly running the same line every single lap. And Mike Rasmus has a 1 lap advantage on his tires. So I was wondering if Rasmus was going to be able to run Taylor down. And the lead is kind of fluctuated. It's only about 5 to 6 tenths of a second. It's not much. But I think Rasmus, for his game plan to work and for him to run down that 91 car, he has to keep Salick and Ward in behind him and not be racing against them in order to run down the leader. And he is building a little bit of a gap between himself and Salick, which is going to help him be able to focus more on catching the leader.
Yeah, one thing I'm kind of surprised by, and I don't know if it's by his own doing, but Jeff Ward and Colton Salick have kind of fallen off our leader just a little bit. It used to be all 4 cars within about 1 second of the leader. Now Colton Salick at a second behind Jeff Ward at about 1.2, 1.3 seconds behind. So I don't know if that's Jeff Ward trying to save onto his tires, maybe just ride for a little while and see what the car feels like. You see him trying to experiment with different lines, getting the car a little bit loose.
Yeah, I think some of that was Jeff Ward just being patient. We saw Colton Salick make that move earlier, but he's not really pulled away these last 5 laps. So, yeah, I really think Jeff was like, hey, if you want it, go ahead and take it. I'm going to stay back here and save my tires. But unfortunately, as we get into the run, the passes are harder to come by. It's harder to make those passes and move around and find speed, because usually the guy you're trying to pass is running the line that you want to run. But you see right there, Colton Salick getting really loose. That's going to help Jeff Ward. He's going to be able to get a run here.
Ward decides to go down to the bottom. We'll see if he completes a pass. Colton Salick lifts out of the throttle just a little bit to go ahead and assist Ward, rather, with making that pass. Up the field, though, guys, Kenny, you mentioned it, the lead's kind of coming down ever so slightly. Was it about 5.5 tenths of a second before? Now down to just 4.5.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like much, but with that small of an interval in between the two, and still with over 10 laps to go, that's enough time for Rasmus to actually make up the ground and make a pass potentially. But again, catching drivers and passing them are 2 different things. However, last 2 corners I've seen Taylor change his line, whether it be intentionally or just missing the corners. He's starting to move around a little bit, and that's allowing Rasmus to catch up. And I think Rasmus kind of at this point is now finding something that's working for him, and he's starting to get in that rhythm.
Speaking of rhythm, one of the things that allows us to get into our own for every broadcast is the sponsor for every race. I just would like to really quickly thank again Mars Properties. They offer out-of-this-world pricing on fully furnished vacation rental homes close to the ocean in New Bern, North Carolina. If you want more information about them, you can email marsproperties@gmail.com. Brian, what you say we go ahead and hop in behind the wheel of that 68 car, Mike Rasmus? Kenny, maybe you can take us for a lap here around Homestead Miami Speedway as we try to hunt down the leader, Matt Taylor.
Sure thing, sir. It's a little bit of cat and mouse once you get close to your target in front of you, trying to get clean air on the front nose. You see how Mike Rasmus staggering. He's not running quite directly behind the 91. He's trying to get some clean air on that front nose of his, so you're running just a tad bit lower than a 91. You let off pretty early down here in 3 and 4 and down in 1 and 2, running down towards the bottom, using the seam for grip. You see both of these drivers turning their wheel a little bit to the right. That means they're fighting a loose condition once they get back on the throttle here. Coming down, back down into turn 1. Again, low. And you can see there the 91 car is fighting a front tight condition. As you can see his car kind of go up the track and then go back down, and it slows down in the middle of the corner, and you'll notice how Rasmus is able to keep that nice roll speed. Now that he's closer to the 91, he's going to start to alter his line, try to create a run on the corner exit, because that's the best place to start a pass and to get next to somebody is on corner exit. So he's trying to figure out, how can I make a run? Where's this 91 car weak? See, he drops back, he lets off early into turn 1, but it's allowing him to get back on the throttle a little bit earlier. The 91, though, does a really good job rolling off of turn 1 that time and actually extends his lead a little bit.
I'm curious as well, at what point, JR, does Mike Rasmus decide to maybe go up the track for 2 corners in a row, try to see if he can't use some of that momentum off the corner?
Yeah, I think at some point that's going to come, and it's probably going to be for him toward the end of this race. For the last 2, maybe 3 laps, he may go up there and try it. I think he just really wants to be on the bottom of the track right now. His car is working extremely well down there as long as he can keep some clean air on that left front. The one thing that Taylor is starting to do is inch down that track in the corners, not because it's necessarily helping him, but it's going to take the air away from Mike Rasmus. So once Rasmus determines he cannot do it, and there he goes, guys, he's going up to the top to try it.
Yeah, he's going to test the waters, just see what's up there. Again, there's a little bit more banking as you go further up the track. The more banking there is, the better you can just hold the car up there. It just helps the car have some more center of the corner speed. He got really close to Matt Taylor before backing off, and Jerry goes back down to the bottom. I don't know if he maybe didn't like what he felt up there, or just didn't feel like it gave him enough momentum off the corner.
I think he was just trying to learn there. I think he was trying to see what his car would do. And again, I don't think he wants to really go up there until the last couple of laps when he knows he really needs to be digging to try to make that pass. So I think that was just kind of an experiment to see what the car will do when he needs it. But yeah, it definitely cost him some time this last time, threw off his rhythm a little bit running the bottom. But he closes back in through turn 1 here.
Yeah, Rasmus seems to be a lot better through turns 1 and 2, whereas Matt Taylor, again, inches it back out in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, and because of that, I really think Rasmus is probably going to do kind of a hybrid line when it comes down to it. He's probably going to try to run the bottom through 1 and 2 since he's so strong, but he may try to go up top through 3 and 4 just to get some momentum and carry that down the straightaways. I mean, he's right there on Matt Taylor right now, so his aero handling is going to get worse, but Taylor's continuing to let him run that bottom and get some clean air.
I feel like at some point, Rasmus is going to have to try the top side on both ends of the speedway just to see what it'll do for him. Might give him just a little bit more speed down the straightaway, maybe get a call to be side by side with the 91 before they enter the corner. At that point, he can decide how far down the track they go.
Oh, and Taylor gets super loose off of turn 4. That's going to give Rasmus the outside here, which might be, he might be able to get this done here off of turn 2.
It all just depends how ballsy Rasmus wants to be with it. How much guts does he have to put in this corner? Does he come off here with enough speed? He is going to have that line side by side called by the spotter. Clear just now. Matt Taylor slots in behind. This might be all done and dusted here for Mike Rasmus.
Yeah, he's continuing to run up top, and he's getting very, very close to running that Larson line, just inches away from the wall, and that will give you tons of speed, but it's very easy to overstep the grip level and get into the wall and cost yourself. He's continuing to run up there, guys. A little bit surprised by that, and it's going to allow Taylor to continue to run his line, so this could be very interesting here in the last lap or so.
2 laps to go. Last time by the flag stand, about a lap and a half left. You see Mike Rasmus all the way up there. If there's anything Matt Taylor can do from now on, it's keep applying the pressure. Maybe force Mr. Consistency to make a mistake, the same one you made yourself, to allow for this whole predicament to happen. Mike Rasmus is going to come off turn 4. He's going to see the white flag in the air. Only 4 turns separate him from being a 2-time winner this season in the Pretty Good Racing League. For Matt Taylor, it's all what could have been at this point in the race, but fear not, he has another shot at redemption here. Later in the night, we have another 55-lap feature event at Homestead Miami Speedway. But for now, It's all the driver, number 68 car, Mike Rasmus. He's going to come off turn 4 in just a couple seconds, all the way up there, running up against the wall. The Larson line. He'll grab the first of 2 checkered flags here for the Mars Properties Rentals Beachfront Bash at Homestead Miami Speedway.
Yeah, great show of discipline there from really both of those drivers, but especially Rasmus. He's been there, done that, and just showed a lot of poise there to just kind of keep running and consistently run down that leader, Taylor, and stick with his game plan and make a nice clean pass, and then put a couple of good laps together there to take that win.
We're going to let iRacing timing and scoring do its thing. Real quickly, we're going to take a look at the point standings championship situation coming into tonight's 2 races. Michael Krobach, he's been leading for the majority of this season. He still sits up there in the lead. Jeff Ward in second. Jonathan Cadell sits up there in the podium places for the point standings. Brian Yazik, a regular. How about Ricky Harden? He's having an exceptionally good championship run this far in the season. Colton Salick, one of our winningest drivers on the entire tour, only good enough for a 7th place point to running so far. Good to see Gael Brooks and Mark Cohn. How about the Watchman there in 9th place, JR?
Yeah, absolutely. He's having a great season as well. Thomas George there in the 10th position. These are drivers that a lot of them have missed races, so it's kind of a little bit deceiving looking right now, because when the chase happens, these drivers may be moving themselves up toward the top because they are drivers that are capable of doing that. They have just missed some races, and they're further behind in points at the moment here.
When we take a look down at the point standings from 11th to 20th place, you see a lot more regulars like Adam Beefjerski, Mike Rasmus, Ryan Zima, somebody that's got 3 wins on the season so far, and then Matt Taylor, still winless so far, but again, very good, sitting in the points standings so far. Sawyer Nelson, Don Runkle Jr., DRJ, it's been a hot minute since we've seen him. Hopefully we get to see him more as the season goes on. Enough of the points, though. We've got someone waiting in the waiting room for the broadcast, Mike Rasmus, big winner here, race number 1. Mike, you waited in the wings for as long as you could, but I could just tell it was gnawing away at you, not being up there in the lead with all the clean air.
Yeah, me and Matt, we had a great race, and I love that we qualified. It was like 1,000th apart in a 4-lap average. That was amazing. I thought I'd just follow him to his win, unless he made some kind of mistake, and he just made a tiny mistake, so I took the top, and I was like, I'm just going to stay up here, and hopefully it works out, and it did, so I'm really happy about that.
I was just going to ask, how hard are you having to push just to keep up with him? And then once you saw him make that mistake, did you know you had an extra, like, maybe 10th there to go get and just grab to pass him and run around him on the high side?
Yeah, I knew I had 1 lap of extra tire on it, and that was a big deal here. Kinda, like if you treat it right, it'll treat you right later on. That's always been my MO in racing, especially on ovals. And yeah, I mean, I just thought, the high line and the low line work about equally well. So I thought I'll just stay up here and see if I can keep my momentum.
Well, Mike, before I let you go, the floor is yours, man. Who makes all this possible?
I just want to thank Michael Krobach for being a great dude and running these really fun races.
Awesome. Well, Mike, really appreciate your time. Once again, congratulations on the win, number 2 on this season. Let's go see if we can't make it 3 for you by the end of the night.
Yeah, let's see.
That's Mike Rasmus, ladies and gentlemen, winner here of race number 1. That means he'll start dead last on the field in race number 2. Speaking of race number 2, we're going to take a quick 1.5 break. We'll be right back after that.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Homestead Miami Speedway. We're here now just before the second of our two 55-lap feature races in the Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash. Mike Rasmus just took home the victory here in race number 1. Just going through the rest of the results from that first race, Matt Taylor led pretty much all the last couple laps of the first race after qualifying on pole. It was an extremely close battle to the end between he and winner Mike Rasmus. Colton Salick rounds out the podium. Jeff Ward in 4th. Michael Krobach with another solid top 5. Jonathan Cadell 6th. Mark Cohen in 7th. Ricky Hart in 8th. Brian Yazik in 9th. And Woody Mahan rounds out the top 10. We'll go ahead and flash the graphic on the screen to go through the other 9 drivers from that race really quickly, just so you can see any of your fan favorites. You got Thomas George, 11th, Rooster Rod in 12th, Gavin Flint, 13th, Jeff Pete, newcomer in 14th. Not such a bad finish out of Jeff. Adam Beef Jersky there in the 15th position, last driver on the lead lap. Sawyer Nelson, 1 lap down, Ryan Keys, Scott Eckridge, Cody Aldred. All those drivers failed to finish the race. And now, without further ado, we'll go ahead and a complete inversion of the finishing results. It gives us our starting order here for the second of the 2 races. Cody Eldred, Scott Eckridge not here today. Ryan Keys going to start off in the pit road. So Sawyer Nelson is going to start the race on the pole and what would have been the 4th position. Adam Jersky lines up in the 5th spot. He'll have Jeff Pete to his outside in the 6th position. Gavin Flint rolls off in 7th. Rooster Rod in 8th with Thomas George and Woody Mahan rounding out the top 10 spots. Brian Yazik qualifies, or should I say starts the race in 11th. He'll have Ricky Harden in the Fingermobile to his outside in 12th. Mark Cohn starts in 13th. The Watchman's got Jonathan Cadell starting his outside in 14th. Michael Krobach rolls off in 15th, followed by Jeff Ward in 16th. Colton Salick starts the race in 17th. Matt Taylor, Mike Rasmus round out your 19-car starting field. iRacing pace car now gets ready to make the hard left turn down pit road and put the field in the command here of Adam Jersky and Sawyer Nelson. Waiting now for the green flag. It's out. We're underway here for the second of the 2 Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash at Homestead Miami Speedway. And look at all the drivers starting to fan out already.
Yeah, these drivers are already going all over the racetrack. They kind of know what to expect, and the big thing is we're running at night now, but the temperature of this track has not changed that much, so the handling characteristics are going to be very similar.
Oh, Sawyer Nelson looking to go from first to worst here on the first lap. Must have gotten in some sort of a trouble there off turn number 2. He's lost a handful of spots all the way back now. He will be the last driver being scored after Mark Cohn. You see Matt Taylor up there again. That's just the craziness that you'll have happen when we do a complete inversion of the field. Adam Beef Jersky still the driver up front. He's got Thomas George just behind him. Gavin Flint looking strong. How about Brian Yazik? All these guys, though, JR, going to have to be extremely careful. They don't burn up these tires just as they did in the last race.
Absolutely right. The better thing that they have in this race compared to race number 1 is that they have track position starting this race. So Brian Yazik in the back of Gavin Flint. It's going to take Krobach out with them, guys.
Yeah, Michael Krobach, a lot of damage on the front end of that race car, even a little bit on the rear end to compound the issue.
And guys, it looks like the caution comes out, and I will tell you why that ended up coming out. as we take a look at the replay there, you see, yeah, you see Flynn just slid up and Yazek had a big run and ran into the back of him, and Krobach just an innocent victim. And that is something we don't see often, is Michael Krobach getting into an accident. But the reason why the caution came out there, it wasn't going to originally, but Ryan Keese was one driver that he started late. He started from the pits, and so he was coming around. He was the last car, and you saw there on the replay that Michael Krobach was trying to whip his car back around to get going again, while Ryan Keese actually was coming. And right there, that is what triggered the caution, because iRacing is looking for traffic to potentially come towards a wreck that's on the racetrack, and if the track is mostly clear, they won't throw the yellow. But since it saw Ryan Keese coming, that's why the late caution flag ended up coming out.
Excellent detective work there, Kenny. I was a little bit confused why it would have come out myself, so good to hear the explanation on that. Guys, how about Mike Rasmus? Up 15 spots from 19th to the 4th position here by the end of, what was that, lap 2, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely flying. And I was going to say we're seeing some drivers come in and top off, but obviously the front guy staying out. The one thing I was interested in is it was clear in race number 1 that Mike Rasmus and Matt Taylor were the class of the fields. They pulled away from everybody by at least 3 seconds at the finish of that race, but now they have to come through traffic. I was interested to see just how much they're able to still have that speed at the end of the run now that they've got to pass a lot of drivers. But Mike Rasmus has already passed a ton in a very short amount of time, so it may not matter a lot to him.
And guys, I actually see at least Taylor took 4 tires on that pit stop, so he is burning up a set of tires. But what he might be thinking here is, you know, we ran green the entire first race. We might run green from here on out in the second race, which, you know, last race left a set of tires in the pits for everybody. So he's thinking, hey, might as well use this first set here and then pit when I normally would anyway on the green flag pit stop and use up that second set. It could possibly work out, and I don't mind him trying a different strategy.
Yeah, you know, at some point you got to try something, maybe just to offset yourself from the rest of the field. Looks like everybody is doubling up. We'll see if the lights do indeed go out atop the iRacing pace car. They do, so we'll be going back green flag racing next time by. Kenny, I saw a couple other drivers down on pit road and some that weren't involved in that first caution, like Jonathan Cadell and Mark Cohn. Perhaps those couple drivers just down there getting some fuel to maybe make sure they can run longer here on this first stint?
Yeah, that's really what it is, just topping off on fuel. Cadell and Cohn coming in a second time to do that. I'm guessing if they're going to do this, that they're going to try to run as long as they possibly can before pitting, try to catch a late a caution, and then be able to pit and have the freshest tires out of everybody in the field. But another thing here with this restart, we noticed how Mike Rasmus, Colton Salick also made a lot of progress through the field, and then just in time, now they got a caution, they can reset and bring those leaders right back to them. So this kind of double restart here is only going to help those drivers who started in the back, who were trying to get through the field.
Exactly, looking at the 99 and the 68 car there on the second row. That first row might be concerning themselves sitting ducks at this point when you've got one of the winningest drivers on the season and Mr. Consistency just in behind you. Green flag out once again. We'll see just how good a start Adam Jersky here can get. I'm also curious, does Thomas George, maybe he learned his lesson, doesn't want to go as hard here in the first couple laps, or might he kind of take that as a lesson learned? Maybe do that same thing, but just like we say, eating an unhealthy food, everything is fine in moderation.
Yeah, I think, you know, like we talked about, race number 1 was all about learning for these drivers, and the ones that really wore their stuff out in race number 1, they should have paid attention to that, and they should be making adjustments to that right now. The one thing I'm not seeing from Thomas George is that he's not running that high line, he's not moving forward like he did in race 1. We saw that hurt him at the end of the run, so it looks like he's learned his lesson. He's staying to the bottom and trying to be a little bit more conservative.
Speaking of drivers staying at the bottom, look at how well Colton Salick wrapped the bottom through turns 1 and 2. Now challenging Adam Beefjerski here on the low line. Forces the 71 car up high. How much of a run off the corner does the 71 get? Salick just able to clear himself, decides to give that 71 a lane. We'll see if that comes back to bite him here. If through turns 1 and 2, and now waiting in the wings, you've got Mr. Consistency just behind him. And how about Jeff Ward in the 9?
Yeah, and you know, Jeff is an extremely smart race car driver. We saw him have speed in race number 1 until those closing laps. He's going to make adjustments, but one of the bigger things is he's going to try to pay attention to what Mike Rasmus is doing right now, because I guarantee you Mike Rasmus is in no hurry, just like he was in race number 1. He's going to take care of his stuff throughout this run.
Now Jeff Ward, as we ride along with him, just on the roof cam looking over his windshield and hood. You see Mike Rasmus out there. Those two drivers trying the top of the racetrack. You see Jeff Ward angling the car downward, Kenny, trying to get a much better run off the corner than Mike Rasmus. Not quite much better enough to get that really good run on him.
Yeah, and that's part of the creativity that's needed here at Homestead, trying to run different lines and create a run on your opponent. I actually saw the leader Salick there get a little bit loose off of turn 4. That's going to give an opportunity to Rasmus here. He's going to try to drive in on the high side, and his goal here is to just be side by side on the exit, or to at least get a big run off of turn 2. But I don't think he's going to have enough juice to actually get side by side with the 99. So Salick will stay in the lead here. This is, kind of a repeat of what Matt Rasmus was doing with Taylor late in race number 1. The only difference is obviously we're early in the race here, and a lot more company in behind the 68 here at the same time, as Jeff Ward trying to see if he can figure out how to keep more longevity in his tires here in race number 2. He and Salick both seem to fall off at the end of the first race.
Yeah, very much. You saw them so close to the leaders there in the closing laps, and when it was all said and done, they were over a second behind the two of them. So you got to be asking yourself, if you're in that position, what do I need to do better? Evidently, probably save your tires just a little bit more. Since we last spoke with an update on these drivers, Ricky Harden has passed the number 6 car of Thomas George. And if you're at all curious what Matt Taylor has done with that fresh set of tires, he restarted back outside the top 10. So far, he's in the 7th position with those much fresher tires than everybody else. I say much fresher. It's only 5 laps, but it's still a decent amount. So far, guys, the progress he's making up through the field, relatively easy thus far. Battle for the lead going on your screen. Mike Rasmus fighting with Colton Salick here.
Yeah, Salick's going to get in the wall just a little bit off of turn 4, and it's going to really slow him down. So that's going to allow Jeff Ward to make an easy pass. And I do want to touch a little bit. We saw Salick get loose down on the bottom a couple of laps ago, and we saw Matt Taylor do it at the very end of the last race. Down on the bottom through turn 4, there is a bump on corner exit, and if you hit that bump wrong right when you're starting to apply extra throttle coming off the corner, the car will jump sideways. So these drivers have to be thinking about that.
Ryan Keys, it looks like, with a little bit of trouble going down the back straightaway. He'll lose a couple spots, but keep that 28 car going in the right direction.
Got some side-by-side going on throughout, just outside the top 5. And, Matt Taylor, remember, he pitted, took 4 tires. He's gotten up to 7th now. He's trying to take 6th away from Adam Jersky. Looks like he's going to do that as we again have a battle side-by-side for the lead. Now it's Jeff Ward trying to make a move for the top spot.
Yeah, Jeff Ward's decided he's been sitting in the wings enough. He'd like to challenge for this lead position. Goes down to the bottom of the racetrack, forces Mike Rasmus up towards the top side. Rasmus is going to have the momentum off the corner. All that banking there, able to keep the car just a little bit more wound up. Jeff Ward ends up getting cleared here by Mike Rasmus once again. We'll see if Jeff Ward can challenge back.
Yeah, and we're seeing here in race 2 where these drivers are challenging for that lead a lot more than what they were doing in race number 1. And a lot of that comes down to the clean air on the front of the nose. When you're behind a driver for 20, 30 laps, the car is going to handle completely different than if you had clean air that entire time. So I think some of these drivers, especially Jeff Ward, they want to feel what their car feels like with that clean air, and that is how they will save the tires even more.
And all this battling between Jeff Ward and Mike Rasmus has allowed Colton Saley to catch all the way up now to Jeff Ward, maybe put his nose back into this fight. And just behind these two drivers, Matt Taylor has picked off another position off of Thomas George. That's that gray and purple car you see, the number 91 machine. Now he sets his sight on Ricky Harden to try to launch himself up into the top 4 spots.
Yeah, and Ricky continuing to have a good run tonight. Top 10 in race number 1. He's running 4th place here, and he's driving that Dodge Charger, which I think is pretty cool because that was one of my favorite cars when it made the comeback, especially seeing it with the Evernham Motorsports group back then. So I think it's really cool to see. Not a lot of drivers run that type of car anymore.
Another side-by-side battle again, up towards the front of the field. Jeff Ward now, this time up on the high side, forces Mike Rasmus down on the bottom. Looks like it's about halfway done, the pass is. Jeff Ward will see if he can get more momentum on the high side all the way up the racetrack, almost making contact with the wall. Mike Rasmus has heard the clear. Does he go block Jeff Ward? He does, forces Ward down to the bottom, and Ward's got to hope, JR, that he can clear Mike Rasmus before the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. These drivers want to sort it out. Now, both of them want to be leading, but they want to get it sorted out because the more they run side by side, the more they're going to wear their stuff out, and also the more they're going to allow Colton Salek to close up and potentially make a pass here. Salek's just riding right now. He's enjoying what he's seeing because the 2 guys ahead of him are racing hard.
Yeah, speaking of riding, Matt Taylor continues to do the exact same thing behind these 3 guys. Jeff Ward continues to run up on the high side, finally clears Mike Rasmus for the lead. We'll see if he continues to run up top. You see Rasmus, Salek, and Taylor all down there on the bottom. Does them a much better job getting into the corner, but not quite the momentum coming off of it. Jeff Ward continues to run the high line.
Yeah, and you know, some of the urgency that we're kind of seeing up front where all these drivers are really racing pretty hard trying to get that lead, some of that's probably coming from them looking at their relative and seeing that Matt Taylor is gaining so much time on them. They have to know that he made a pit stop and has fresher tires, so these drivers want to be the one that has the clean air trying to control this race before he gets there.
That last time coming off of turn 2, you saw Jeff Ward get crazy slideways off the corner. That allowed for Mike Rasmus to pass him for the lead, allowed Colton Salek to get underneath of him now out of turn 4. We'll see where everybody goes this time by Rasmus and Ward go up the track. Salek on the bottom. Matt Taylor follows Salek right there as well. And how about Ricky Hart just keeping in touch with these guys?
Yeah, continuing to have a great run. He's kind of by himself. He's got a little bit of a gap to the guys in front, a little bit to the guys behind, and that's awesome because you don't have to worry about looking in your mirror or see a driver trying to make moves on you. You just run the track and run your race.
Mike Rasmus, that last time. Go ahead, Kenny.
Well, I was going to say, I think the other thing that could help Harden out here is pit strategy. We're just a few laps away from seeing more green flag pit stops, at least from the leaders. Got a few drivers in the back that might stay out late, but with a driver like Harden who's got a little bit of space, if one of those top 4 pits, he will see that and will be able to cover the undercut if he chooses to. And if he sees those leaders stay out, he could actually initiate the undercut and pit at least 1 lap earlier than all 4 of those drivers and potentially leapfrog all of them. So he's got a little bit of control when it comes to the strategy here, whereas those top 4 were all over each other. Jeff Ward's starting to drop off just a little, but those drivers that are all over each other, they might have some calamities here when we start choosing when to make that pit stop.
And guys, for all the praise we're giving Ricky Hart in that Fingermobile, how about Adam Beef-Jerski back there in that Beef-Jerski's Cheesecake Emporium car, the 71 machine? He did start on the front row, but guys, he's still in the 6th position, just about a 1.5 seconds off the lead. And I think this really just shows that track position is everything. You give some of these guys that maybe didn't qualify so well for race number 1, put them up here, and they have enough speed to hang with some of the fast guys.
Yeah, track position means a lot, and it can completely change the way that you run your race and the things that you do and the strategy that you run. So definitely tractor position is something that you want to have, but it's not a big surprise to me to see Adam Jersky up here. He was having a great run in race number 1 until he had that mishap coming to pit road. So he's going to learn from that and make adjustments, and we're going to see how much smoother he can be coming pit road this time in the next 10 laps. And he just may have a shot to win this race, if nothing else, get up in the top 5.
Battle for the lead continues to ensue. Mike Rasmus on the top, Colton Salick on the bottom, and just behind these guys is that gray and purple car, the number 91 machine of Matt Taylor, with those 5-lap fresher tires. Finally gets up here to pressure these guys for the lead, and honestly, the slow ascent to the front of the field after pretty much starting in one of the last positions off the restart just shows why he's so smooth and runs so well here. Just really methodical, just getting out of the car, whatever it's willing to give him, not overstepping the boundaries on grip very often, and it's been slow progress, but he's up here nonetheless.
Yeah, he is. He's been very good at running the same lap after lap, the same line. Now he's starting to move around because he's wanting to get by Colton Salick. He knows that's going to be a little bit of a hard pass, so he's trying to get a run there, and he's got it going into turn 1. That's going to put him back into the lane that he wants to be in. That's where he's been running all night.
Yeah, I saw Salick come down the track just to kind of pressure him, pinch him off down there a little bit on the bottom, make his exit off the corner just a little bit harder. You see Colton Salick now charges back to the inside. I think it's going to be all done and dusted, though. Matt Taylor on the top side, he's going to have a lot of momentum, especially coming off the corner. He should be able to clear Salick down the front stretch.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Colton's going to get a little bit loose. As you get into that run, it becomes harder and harder to come off the bottom of turn 4 onto the straightaway, especially when you have a car on your outside. You're just trying to fight the car and keep it down from making contact. And again, the car just wants to step out on you.
Michael Krobach, the first of our drivers to come down pit road, and McKinney looks like Gavin Flint in as well.
Yeah, and actually last lap, Thomas George came in. He was the one that initiated the pit cycle. None of these drivers, though, really running in contention. However, Ricky Harden comes in this time by, along with Adam Jersky and Mark Cohn. So those two drivers, Jersky and Harden, those are drivers that the leaders will probably be thinking about as potentially drivers that could overlap them or undercut them, I should say. But the leader's actually starting to spread out here, and really if you're Salick or if you're Rasmus or Ward, I think you need to pit here soon, because Taylor's going to probably run out here as long as he can on this set of tires, because he knows until they make the pit stop, he's got the tire advantage over the field right now.
Yeah, and just so you folks at home have all the information kind of at your fingertips, Mike Rasmus, the driver in number 68, Mr. Consistency, we like to call him, ran a 32.6 on lap 8. That's his fastest lap thus far in the race. These last couple, he's been running in the 34s. That's about a second and a half of fall-off time for these drivers. So if you're somebody like a Ricky Harden or an Anna Beef Jersky, you come in maybe just a lap or two before these guys, that's 2 to 3 seconds of undercut opportunity you're buying yourself. You now see two of our podium drivers come down pit road, Colton Salick, Mike Rasmus. They leave Matt Taylor out on the racetrack. I would definitely expect Taylor comes down pit road this next time by.
Yeah, and I think Taylor was intentionally staying out just a little bit late, because he actually pitted one lap earlier than Rasmus last race, and we saw how it didn't quite work out. So I think now this time he's trying to go the opposite, but I do think he needs to come in this time by, and it looks like he is going to stay out, though. I think I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to make this tire set last a little while and then be really fast at the end. He's just got to be careful that he doesn't give up too much time to those other front runners.
Agreed. Yeah, he could very easily kind of shoot himself in the foot, per se, if he stays out there on those old tires too much longer. I'd like to, Ryan, just quickly, take a look at Thomas George, as Matt Taylor does announce he's going to pit in this time by. Thomas George comes off pit road. He's much further ahead of Jeff Ward and Colton Salick. There the two drivers are, just behind him. That's just what the undercut does. And Thomas George wasn't a driver in the 4th or 5th position. He was in 6th or worse than that before he came down pit road. I'm curious to see, though, Kenny, Ricky Harden and Adam Jersky still behind those two drivers of Mike Rasmus and Colton Salick, so not quite taking advantage of that undercut opportunity.
Yeah, actually a 15.35 second pit stop for Ricky Harden. That's a little bit on the slow side, and really, honestly, if he would have ran equal to the drivers in front of him, he would be pretty much right on top of them. So didn't do the greatest job in pit lane. You know, the in-lap and the out-lap can also be a big factor, and that is there you see the 6-car Thomas George. He is the leader, going by the driver exiting the pits, which was Matt Taylor. But you see the 6-car has a train of drivers right behind. All have newer tires than he has, and Ward 3 laps fresher than George, Salick 1 lap fresher than Ward, Rasmus equal with Salick, and then you see there by the graphic there, Harden actually slightly older tires, like what you were saying, Austin, along with Jersky. But you see how far back Taylor is. Matt Taylor is 5.5 seconds behind the leader right now.
Jeff Ward takes away the lead here from Thomas George as they go through turns 1 and 2. Colton Salick should be on him like white on rice here in just about any second. I expect him to complete the pass probably off of turn 4, the way things are looking so far.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise at this point that this is starting to happen. We saw Thomas George pit a little bit earlier. That got him that track position, got him out front, but obviously he's going to have older tires, and even though it's only a couple of laps older tires than what Jeff Ward and Colton Salick have, it's enough in lap time that these drivers are going to be able to make those passes, because it's still 2-3 of a second that these drivers have an advantage on him.
The Mr. Consistency, Mike Rasmus, now sits in that 4th position, just a little bit behind Thomas George here. And then Ricky Harden. You know, for as much as we said he should have leapfrogged those guys, didn't quite execute well on pit road, but still here with the top 5 run. Not doing a half-bad race himself. Adam Jersky still sits in that 6th position. Very proud of the run Adam is putting on so far.
Yeah, you know, Ricky Harden and Adam Jersky, they were really kind of running far enough back that I think when they pitted, they thought those leaders might not quite be paying attention. But unfortunately for them, those leaders pitted the very next lap, and really they were not able to gain an advantage during that pit cycle. So they tried something, it didn't work. The biggest thing is that both of them were able to get on and off pit road without any incidents.
Guys, we have one problem. One driver who's had a lot of problems, Brian Yazik. You'll see him limping there on the bottom of the racetrack down the backstretch. Last lap, he got really loose on the bottom in turns 3 and 4, overcorrected and shot straight up into the outside wall, killed the right front. That right front suspension has been collapsed, and that will pretty much end the night for the Yaz's Sandwiches car. Not a great evening for Brian Yazik, and it's going to end on a sour note. I'm just tracking Matt Taylor's progress still. He's in 7th place. He's now down to 4.5 seconds behind the leaders, but at the moment, he's really just running a 10th or 2 faster than the leader every single lap, and that's not even close to the
yeah, he'll run out of time.
Yeah, I mean, he will only pretty much cut the lead in half at this rate. He will not, I mean, he'll still be a couple seconds behind.
Yeah, and I think at the end of this run, he's going to be a lot faster than those drivers up front. But again, he's so far back, I don't think he's going to be able to overcome it. And unfortunately, you know, he did that strategy, taking those set of tires when we were about 5 laps in under that first caution. He kind of put himself in a box, and I think he stayed out so late because he was worried that strategy may come into play here. Something weird may happen. Unfortunately, you know, he only stayed out 2 laps longer than these other guys, and it cost him a ton of time. So if he were able to stay out a little bit longer, it may have paid off for him overall, but it's just not looking great right now. But he is starting to make some passes, but still over 4 seconds behind.
Yep, you see there Matt Taylor getting around Adam Jersky. That's for the 6th place position, and now Taylor can set his sights on the fingermobile there of Ricky Harden. That's that 3 machine up there. Not quite hard in the wall today, keeping that thing pointed in the right direction. Oh, Matt Taylor a little bit loose off the corner there. That's going to hurt his progress a smidge. just a minor bump in the road overall. So Taylor should be getting around Ricky Harden here within probably the next lap and a half or so, and then he'll put himself back inside the top 5. A couple laps ago, guys, Michael Krobach gave away a spot to Jonathan Cadell. All things considered, not a bad night for Michael Krobach. Finished race number 1 in the 5th position. I very much expected just as good a race number 2 for him, but unfortunately, that little bit of a collision, again, not his fault. The damage at race car really hurting the speed of that 72 tonight.
Yeah, for sure. He's someone that I expected to kind of be up front. I think the last time that we ran here, he actually finished 2nd, and he's one of those drivers that's known for saving his equipment, saving his tires, and having something toward the end of the run, and that pays huge dividends here at Homestead Miami Speedway. But yeah, tonight's just not been the night that he was looking for, but like you said, overall, still good finishes, top 5 in race number 1, running top 10 now.
Saw Matt Taylor just get around up underneath the 3 there of Ricky Harden. Now he goes after that number 6 car of Thomas George. And then after that, he's got about almost 2 seconds, JR, up to the next car that he can pass for position. You see the 5 car here, Sawyer Nelson. He's going to be down at the bottom of the track, just kind of pulling out of the way as the lap down car does. Up at the front of the field, our 2 leaders are within 2/10 of each other. Jeff Ward and Colton Salick starting to get after each other. And I'll tell you what, this is the best thing for Matt Taylor.
It absolutely is. We saw in race number 1, these 2 drivers were real close to Mike Rasmus and Matt Taylor toward the end of that race, but those last 5 laps, they fell off by over 3 seconds. So they're hoping that that repeats itself here in race number 2. And the driver that's enjoying that the most, seeing these 2 race side by side, is Mike Rasmus, because he's just a little over a second back, and you know that he knows how to have speed at the end of the run.
Yeah, I've actually been watching Rasmus's lap times, and he was pretty much even with them, with the 2 leaders for a little while. Then he started to gain about a 1/10 or so a lap, and now he's gaining at least a 1/10, if not 2/10 per lap when these drivers are racing side by side. A good pass there by Colton Salick will get him into the lead, but there's nothing saying that he might not be able to necessarily run away. It's like you guys have been saying, the 9 and the 99 have both been a little bit rough on taking care of their tires compared to that 68 machine. You see him in the background, so I would not necessarily count Rasmus out of this.
Yeah, let's also remember, too, Mike Rasmus was the guy that just took really good care of his tires at the tail end of the first race tonight to go ahead and bring home the checkered flag in that race. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he took good care of his tires again and came back to win this race as well. Looks like a big distance to cover, but we know for a fact those 2 guys, the 9 and 99, really wore out their stuff racing side by side for the last 3 or 4 laps. So anything can and will happen. And just as I say that, Matt Taylor there pokes the nose of his car into frame ever so slightly there. He's made his way into the 4th position. We'll try to keep you folks at home appraised on the situation there for that 91 car.
It looks like, just like the first run, Jeff Ward's car has fallen off a cliff, and he's running up top, trying to kind of just defend as best as he can with some momentum, but it looks like Rasmus is going to be able to make the pass soon. Not sure if he can do it off of this corner, but the quicker that the 68 can do this, the earlier that he can start focusing on Salick, as the gap to the leader is under a second now, and he's beating Salick by a little over a 1/10 of a second, but at that rate, it's not going to be enough. He's going to cut the lead pretty much in half, and that'd be about it.
Rasmus was already going to clear Jeff Ward off the corner, but Ward got a little bit loose, and that makes everything much easier for the number 68 car. So he should be able to pull away from the 9. We'll see if he can catch up to that 99 car.
Yeah, and the one reason, that I keep talking about tire wear and stuff at this racetrack is that when the tire wear really falls off, it falls off quickly, and it's usually unexpected to the driver that it happens to. And we saw in race number 1 that we had like 4 drivers that were all racing together, but those last 5 to 6 laps is when it really came into play, and we saw drivers falling off over 3 seconds. So Mike Rasmus, he knows how to get it done, get all the way to the end of this run. He's hoping that Colton Salick has not made a whole lot of adjustments to his driving style, and hoping that car falls off in the next couple of laps like it did in race number 1.
Well, that
5
last
laps
lap
to go.
guys, That last lap, guys, Rasmus beat Salick by almost 0.3 of a second now that he has some clean air. So that's a big time lap for the 68. Remember, we're on the cusp of some potential history here in PGRL. No driver has ever swept the twin race format in the same week. And Rasmus, of course, won the first race tonight, so he could potentially be the first driver to ever do that.
Yeah, Kenny, you took the words right out of my mouth. 5 laps to go last time by, 4 to go this time. Rasmus has taken away 0.3 of a second, now 0.2 of a second, out of the lead that Colton Salick has. If he continues with this pace, he'll be there in about no time flat. He should get to him in half, maybe about a lap and a half, just to race behind him and try to make a move. So at this point, if Colton Salick's got anything left on the table, anything in the reserves, now's the time to bring it up. And look at how much the 68 car closes in on him, especially entering the corner. That tells me, JR, that 99's pretty much used up his front axle.
I believe so, and the one thing we're seeing is out of the 2 cars, the 68 is keeping his car straighter, especially up off the corner. The 99's really moving around, having to fight that wheel, and I really, really like what Mike Rasmus has done here tonight in both races. He's running right against that white line the entire time. He's saving his stuff and having the speed here at the end, so very much a Kevin Harvick style type race for Mike Rasmus, just being very patient early on and coming on strong here at the end by running the bottom.
Yeah, he's all over his back bumper. Now, if you're Mike Rasmus, 2 to go this time by, do you try to take him high? Do you take him low? Do you fake him out? Mike Rasmus shoves his car down on the inside. Colton Salick coming in for the pinch move, going to try to hurt the momentum of Mike Rasmus as they go down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and you know, that's a technique that you use. You try to pinch the driver a little bit when they're trying to make that pass on the inside, but unfortunately for Salick, his car's not handling very well, so that can really hurt his handling up off the corners. Mike Rasmus was very respectful there. He's going to have to try to find this last lap of speed and try to make a move on him that he's not expecting.
White flag, 1 lap to go. Rasmus pokes his nose up high. Colton Salick goes up there to cover, gets the call on the outside, decides to say, screw that, I'll cut the corner. Try to see if I get a good run off. Mike Rasmus, all the momentum in the world on the high side, clears himself. Now separated by an entire car length as they head into turn 3 and 4. Colton Salick throws the car in there, but Mike Rasmus continues to have all the momentum. It's going to be a drag race to the finish line. Mike Rasmus on the high side with the momentum. He'll see the second of 2 checkered flags here at Homestead Miami Speedway for the Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash. That's a stat I didn't think we'd break here coming into the night, guys. 2 wins back-to-back for Mike Rasmus, the first person to do it since the Pretty Good Racing League switched to this 2 feature races a night. We're going to take a quick break. After a minute and a half, we'll be back here. We'll talk to that man, the winner, go through the finishing order, and all that good stuff. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Mars Properties Vacation Rentals Beachfront Bash from Homestead Miami Speedway. Mike Rasmus, Mr. Consistency, once again showing why we gave him that nickname, consistently finishing first in both the races tonight, making histories. Speaking of which, you want to make history for yourself in your own life, you could buy yourself something that you'll have for a lifetime, but memories always last forever. They don't degrade. Mars Properties offers out-of-this-world pricing on fully furnished vacation rental homes homes close to the ocean in New Bern, North Carolina. If you want any more information about that, you can email them at marsproperties@gmail.com. Finishing results for race number 2, finally in. Mike Rasmus going back-to-back, the first driver to do so since the Pretty Good Racing League switched to this 2 feature races per night format. Colton Salick didn't make it easy on him, though. He stayed up there, fought valiantly. He'll come home with a second-place finish. Gets denied once again to be the winningest driver on the calendar thus far. Matt Taylor finishes second in the first race, third in the second race. He drove an amazing night of races. And for Jeff Ward, defending series champion, he finishes 4th in both the races. Jonathan Cadell, 6th in the first race, top 5 in the second. Ricky Harden with 2 top 10s on the night, comes home in 6th in the second race. Adam Beef-Jersky comes home in 7th. Thomas George 8th. Mark Cohn, the Watchman, in the 9th position. Michael Krobach rounds out your top 10. 11th goes to Jeff Pete, making his debut. Solid night for a debut for Jeff Pete. Does very, very well for himself. Rooster Rodden finishes 12th. Gavin Flint in 13th. Woody Mahan in 14th. Sawyer Nelson in 15th. Brian Yazik with a pretty early meatball. Not quite the night he wanted. He'll come home in 16th. Ryan Keys in 17th. And, of course, Cody Eldred, Scott Eckridge, both those drivers failed to start the race. And, JR, I believe you're standing by with the winner of race number 2, Mike Rasmus.
Trying to get him pulled in here, guys. There we go. All right. Mike Rasmus, hey, congratulations, man. Not only winning race number 2, but obviously winning race number 1. First driver to do the sweep in this type of format. We normally call you Mr. Consistency, and I would say winning both races is about as consistent as you can be.
Yeah, how about that? That's really fun. I didn't think I could beat Colton. He's so tough. So, yeah, I'm super happy about that. I thought Matt would find his way back to the front. He definitely wanted to pit late and have the newest tires at the end, so I wasn't sure if he was going to make it all the way or not. But yeah, that's I'm pretty surprised. 2 in a row here at Homestead, but I do love the track and I love this car on this track, so I think I felt good all night. The car felt great, and yeah, just pumped about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic driving there tonight. And I've got to ask you, what made the difference in you having the speed in the long run? We saw in race number 1, you and Matt Taylor were the class of the fields. Obviously, in this race, when it came down to the end of the run, you had a lot more speed than the other drivers. What was the key to helping you have that speed?
It seemed to me like it was getting into the corners nice and easy compared to using a lot of brake. Had something to do with it. I think my mid-corner speed was a little lower than the guys around me, Jeff and Colton especially. I think they might have been surprised how slow I was in the middle of the corner, but getting in and getting off, I was really easy. And waiting on the throttle, I think it's all about throttle control and not steering the wheel too much into the corner, which sounds simple, but it can be hard to do. And especially getting to follow people, I think I'm better, one of those drivers that's better at following. I need like the carrot on the stick in front of me, because I can kind of reference that and control my driving style that way. I think that really helped on the longer runs. Even though these races are a lot shorter than they used to be, if there's tire wear, I still think that about halfway through the run, I start to catch back up to the guys who darted off in the beginning.
For sure, and I want to ask you just real quick, and then we'll let you go here. You came in tonight 12th place in points. You're continuing to move up each and every week, even though you've missed 8 races. I mean, you're already in 12th in points. This is going to be your 3rd win of the season, so obviously setting yourself up nicely going into the playoffs in about a month or so. So, what's your game plan? I think we've asked you this before. Is it just go out and try to win races, try to figure out what strategy you can use in the playoffs at this point?
Yeah, definitely. Just all this whole season, I missed so many races. Unfortunately, I can't be really contending. I mean, we'll see about the playoffs, but hopefully, I'll be around more often, starting now or so. But yeah, I'm just trying to do the best I can and have fun. And nights like this are great because I'm super surprised and really happy with the performance.
was absolutely awesome run tonight. Before I let you go, anybody you want to thank for tonight's wins?
Yeah, all the racers I got to race tonight was awesome. I loved racing Jeff and Matt Taylor and Colton, Ricky Arden, a bunch of other people. This track is so great for racing that once you start racing, you can really have fun with it when you're with the right people, and I was with the right people.
Awesome, man. Hey, congratulations. Big sweep. First time seeing it in this type of format. So great night, Mike. We look forward to talking to you hopefully next week again.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
All right, guys, that was Mike Rasmus. He comes home in first place in both races tonight, doing a fantastic job. And with that, I believe Kenny is now caught up with a special guest.
I have. It's fellow VGN employee Ricky Harden. Ricky, pretty solid runs for you tonight. Finished 8th in race 1, 6th in race 2, and you were one driver that I believe you pitted kind of early in that second race. But the tire strategy just didn't quite work out for you. What were you missing there on the long runs?
Well, I was just missing the speed, to be honest with you. That the first race I short pitted. I came in as early as I possibly could, and that it didn't really work for me. At the end of the race, I was falling like a rock. I thought the right strategy was to try to hang on to the right front and sort of hug the bottom lane most of the race, and I think that was right. I just didn't have the speed I needed, and it took me the whole first race to figure it out. Second race, I split right in half, and it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely seemed to be drivers who just kind of straight up had the pace advantage, but the race seemed to be closer in the second race throughout the field. Was there anything that you learned in race 1 that helped you out in race 2? You improved by 2 positions. And I believe the time interval to the leaders was closer for you compared to the first race as well. Was there anything you learned from race 1 that helped you in race 2?
Yeah, I learned how to drive the car. And going into race 1, I really didn't know what to do. I'd only run a couple of laps consecutively in practice. So I was learning a lot in race 1. And I learned how to save the right front a little bit better, but obviously not well enough. I think the weather helped too. Because it was a little more, track temp was a little lower, I think, there in the second race, and so that kept us a little closer.
Well, looking forward to the next week, we're going into the road course of Lime Rock Park in the trucks. That's a very odd combination, and I'm excited to watch it. Are you excited to drive it?
I don't even know what to think about that. I'm not super great on the road courses, so. We'll go out there and try to have some fun.
Yeah, we'll have fun watching you try to find your way out there. But who would you like to thank for the 2 solid runs tonight?
Thank all the guys over at PGRL, everybody at VGN. Appreciate y'all and everything you do, and appreciate all my viewers over at Hard in the Wall on Twitch.
All right, Ricky, it's always good to talk with you and watch you out there. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks.
That was Ricky Harden, 8th place in race 1, 6th place in race 2. We'll send it back upstairs to Austin.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Real quick, thank you to both our, the winner, Mike Rasmus, of both the races for taking the time to come talk to us, and Ricky. Always appreciate those guys hanging around just a little bit after the races to come give us a piece of their mind. It's always fun to talk to Mike and Ricky, especially during these broadcasts. JR, I didn't think for once that we'd only get one caution through the entirety of 110 laps racing here tonight, and I definitely didn't think that we were going to have one driver win both races, especially not with how close it was down at the end there between Rasmus and Salick.
Absolutely, and I think this goes back to our early days of broadcasting at PGRL. We remember how horrible that first race was, so many cautions, but tonight, like you said, one caution amongst the 2 races just shows the quality of drivers that are in this field and how they're able to race each other respectfully, but also hard. We saw some great racing tonight, and, absolutely amazing what Mike Rasmus was able to do, because he won race number 1, by really taking care of his stuff. But going into race number 2, having to start in the back, it would have been very easy to really wear his stuff out and try to do something different, but he didn't. He stuck to the game plan and was able to get the big win, and that's going to carry momentum as we're getting closer to the chase. Jeff Ward, we expected him to kind of be up there. He's having a little bit off night, even though he came home in 4th in both of these races. I think you're starting to see some drivers move up in the points and some drivers that are kind of moving down, and that's real important going into the playoffs because momentum is huge.
Yeah, and I can't help but think of this race, really both races, as kind of being a tale of what ifs with that 91 car of Matt Taylor. Fast in both races, came in this week with no wins, which we talk about the win and you're in kind of mentality of preparing for that chase format. And Taylor just could not quite make his tires last in the first race and then didn't get the strategy right in the second race. He has to be encouraged that he's showing really good speed with the kind of perennial title contenders, so that's got to be encouraging. But he'll go home frustrated with a 2nd and a 3rd place tonight. And again, you're just great to see some history being made tonight with Mike Rasmus getting the sweep. A little bit of a short field tonight, but that does not take away from how hard Rasmus had to work, especially in that race number 2, running down the leaders in front and making those cool-headed passes when it counted the most.
Thanks, Kenny. Couldn't agree more. I mean, Rasmus was up to basically the 4th position after the first couple laps, so he definitely had to be on it for both these wins tonight. Speaking of next week, like you were talking with Ricky Harden a couple minutes ago, Kenny, we'll be back live next week at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, January 23rd from Lime Rock Park. We're going to be making some left and some right turns, one of my favorite road courses on the entire iRacing platform. And if you find yourself without much to do this Friday night, January 19th, the Bootleg Racing League's Outlaw SK Modified Series takes on Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I'll be on the call with Bill Soupson on Friday, so make sure to tune in. And as always, this has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. On behalf of myself, Austin Belke, my booth mates J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, as well as our director Ryan Seneker, thank you so much for watching and have a good night.